The room was cold, metallic, and silent, except for the laughter of the alien commanders. There were 7 of them, each dressed in dark war armor that shined under the white lights. They stood tall, proud, and full of power. These were the leaders of the Dravari Empire, rulers of 7 systems, destroyers of 3 species. To them, war was sport. Conquest was a daily game, and now, in the middle of their war room, stood one strange figure. A human. He wore no armor, no chains, and no fear. His hands were loose by his sides. His face was calm. He had short black hair and eyes that didn't blink much. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stood there. General Korlax, the biggest of the commanders, leaned forward and laughed louder than the others. "This is it? This is the human they warned us about?" He barked. "He looks like a wet stick." More laughter. The others followed, slapping the table or tapping their claws against their armor. "Earth sends this to represent them?" sneered Commander Velth. "Where is his army? Where is his fire?" "He doesn't even have a translator chip," said another. "Maybe he can't even speak." They kept laughing. The human still didn't respond. His name, as they would later learn, was Reed. Reed stood quietly as the guards behind him kept their blasters ready. He could feel their fear even if they tried to hide it. The soldiers didn't laugh like the commanders. They watched. They listened. They felt something cold and strange near him, but couldn't explain why. "I want to hit him," said Korlax, getting out of his seat. "Just once. Just a little punch. Let's see if the dangerous human bleeds like the rest." "No weapons," Commander Velth reminded him with a grin. "He won't survive even a small hit." Korlax stepped closer. His armor made deep, thudding sounds on the floor. He raised his giant fist. Still, Reed didn't move. Not a blink, not a breath. Korlax threw the punch. His fist stopped an inch away from Reed's face. He froze, not because someone stopped him, but because his whole arm wouldn't move anymore. "What?" Korlax gasped. His body began shaking. He stepped back, clutching his chest. His laugh turned into coughs. His coughs turned into choking. Within seconds, he was on the floor. The other commanders stopped laughing. One pressed a button. "Medic! Now!" The doors opened. 3 alien medics rushed in. They scanned Korlax. Confusion hit their faces. "No wound, no poison, no brain damage," one whispered. "But his heart, it's failing." "How?" Velth asked, stepping back in fear. Reed finally moved, just his head. He looked at them, slowly, one by one. His voice came out low, smooth, and quiet. That was a warning. The room froze. Guards raised their weapons. Reed didn't move again. "Put him down," Velth shouted, but none of the guards fired. One even lowered his weapon slowly, unsure why. The medics carried Korlax out. He was alive, but unconscious. His heartbeat was weak. Velth's voice shook with anger. "What did you do to him?" Reed didn't reply. "He didn't do anything," said one of the guards. "I saw it. He never touched Korlax." Velth bared his teeth. "Then how did this happen?" No one had answers. Back in the surveillance room, a quiet analyst reviewed the camera feed. Her name was Drin, a science officer and technician. She was one of the few who didn't laugh earlier. She paused the video, zoomed in. Reed's eyes at the moment Korlax collapsed had glowed. Not much. Just a faint shimmer of white light. "Commander Velth," she called through the comm. "You might want to see this." Velth arrived minutes later, eyes sharp, tail twitching. Drin replayed the video. "Watch his eyes," she said. Velth leaned in. He saw it. "Impossible," he muttered. "Humans don't have that ability, do they?" "No known record," said Drin. "But this one, he's not like the others." Velth frowned. How did Earth even build creatures like this? They didn't, Drin said. They survived their planet. That's how they changed. Back in the prison sector, Reed sat alone in a glass cell. There were no walls, just invisible force fields around him. No sound entered the cell. No light changed. It was a perfect control chamber. Still, something was wrong. All cameras watching Reed began to flicker. One by one, the lights inside the room dimmed. A low humming began, from nowhere. In the control tower, alarms lit up. "Sir," said one operator, "we're losing power in cell block 9. "That's the human's cell," the officer replied. "What's causing it? Nothing we can detect." Commander Velth watched as engineers ran through the halls. "This is nonsense," he shouted. "He's not doing this. He has no tools, no comms, no tech." Another screen popped up beside him. A silent video played, Reed sitting still inside the dark cell. Then the words appeared on every screen in the base, blinking red. "You hurt one. We see all." Velth stared. His voice cracked. "What does that mean?" No one answered. In a hidden room far below the base, old alien technology began to shake. No one had used it in decades. It was a signal vault, a place where intercepted messages from Earth were kept. One of them, long believed broken, activated by itself. It played a recording. A human child's voice echoed, "They laugh at us now, but we are not jokes. Not anymore." The voice faded. Then another voice, older, maybe military. "To the stars, we don't need to fight you. But if you touch one of us, even by mistake, know this. Earth watches, and Earth never forgets." That night, in the silence of the base, Reed stood up inside his cell. No one had opened it. No one had allowed movement, but he was now standing. The force field cracked, just a hairline line. The guards watching screamed and ran. Reed tilted his head. He looked toward the camera, and for the first time since his capture, he smiled. The silence in the command hall was heavy. Commander Korlax, the strongest and most feared leader of the Dravari Empire, now lay in a recovery chamber. His armor had been removed. His heart beat slowly, barely strong enough to keep him alive. Tubes ran in and out of his body. Medics watched helplessly. They could do nothing but wait. Velth stood beside the glass. His claws tapped the edge of his belt. He wasn't afraid of war, but this was something different. All of this had started with a simple punch, and now the mighty Korlax was nearly dead. Meanwhile, in the observation deck above the prison wing, the science officer Drin stared at the monitors. Her eyes were wide, her breathing shallow. "Rewind it again," she whispered. The technician beside her did as told. On screen, the moment played once more. Korlax's punch stopped mid-air. His arm froze, his eyes went wide. Then his body fell like a stone. But the human, Reed, hadn't touched him, hadn't even blinked. Drin leaned in close. "There," she said, pointing. A small glow appeared in Reed's chest. Faint, like a heartbeat of light. It lasted less than a second. "What is that?" the technician asked. "I don't know," Drin replied. "But if we don't understand him soon, we won't survive him." Inside his force field cell, Reed sat cross-legged now. Calm, silent. The lights above flickered again. The guards were nervous. One wiped sweat from his forehead, another gripped his weapon too tightly. "He's just a man," one whispered. "Men don't do that," said the other. Suddenly, Reed opened his eyes. They glowed white for just a second. Both guards dropped their weapons and stepped back. "Don't move," one said. "Stay seated." Reed didn't speak. He just tilted his head slightly, as if listening to something far away. In the central war room, the remaining 6 commanders met. The tension was high. "This is no ordinary human," Velth said. "Earth sent something else. Maybe a weapon." "That's not possible," growled Commander Elzar. We scanned him. No chips, no tech. Then he is the weapon, said Drin, entering the room. She was the only civilian there, but no one stopped her. What do you mean? Velth asked. Drin placed a small cube on the table. It showed images of Reed, his breathing, his heart rate, and his brain waves. His vitals are stable, Drin explained. Too stable, like a machine. So he's been trained, said another commander. Big deal. No, Drin said. This isn't just training. His body responds to emotion. When he feels, especially anger, his body changes. Commander Velth narrowed his eyes. Into what? Something the galaxy has never seen, Drin said softly. His biology is reacting to energy around him, almost like he absorbs power. They went silent. You're saying he feeds on fear? Velth asked. No, she replied. I'm saying he creates it. Back in the medical wing, alarms screamed. Korlax's heart rate dropped to flatline. The screen showed no pulse. Medics rushed in. Shock panels were slammed against his chest. Once, twice. Nothing. Then, boom. The room shook. Lights exploded. Glass shattered. The medics flew backward as a wave of invisible energy rushed through the chamber. The machine sparked and died, and Commander Korlax rose. Not by himself. His body floated 2 feet above the bed, stiff like a board. His eyes were open. His mouth hung wide. He spoke, but it wasn't his voice. You came to mock, now you listen. The medics screamed and ran. Across the base, lights dimmed. Reed opened his eyes again. He smiled faintly. Commander Velth rushed to the medical wing. By the time he arrived, Korlax was lying flat again, breathing but unconscious. Security bots surrounded the room. No one was allowed in. Drin arrived seconds later. I want to scan him now, she said. Velth nodded. Inside, Drin placed a neural scanner over Korlax's head. The results shocked her. There's another pattern in his brain, she whispered. Velth leaned in. What kind of pattern? Not his, she replied. Someone else's voice, something old and human. Velth shook his head. That's not possible. Drin looked at him with fearful eyes. It's happening. Right now, Reed is speaking through Korlax. In the prison wing, a high-ranking security officer named Frav entered Reed's cell area. He had orders. Move the prisoner to Isolation Zone 3. There, sound and energy were blocked completely. No contact with the outside world. Frav stepped forward, 6 guards behind him. Reed, stand, he ordered. The human looked up slowly. His voice was soft but sharp. You're late. Frav frowned. What? Reed stood. The force field flickered. The guards aimed their weapons. Reed didn't even glance at them. I won't stop you, he said. Frav relaxed a little. Good. Move. But something else might, Reed added. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the corridor. From the shadows, one of the base's defense turrets spun out of its housing and aimed at the guards. Not Reed, the guards. Disable it, Frav shouted. I can't, yelled a technician through comms. It's not responding. Reed stepped forward. The field vanished. None of the guards fired. Velth and Drin were watching the scene from above. They had a full view through glass. He's walking free, Drin said, and the base is letting him. No, Velth said. The base isn't in control anymore. Drin's voice dropped. Then who is? They both looked at Reed now, calmly walking through the halls. As he passed each locked door, it opened. Lights turned on where he walked. Cameras turned to follow him. Velth felt his chest tighten. This is no prisoner, he said. This is judgment. A shadow was moving through the heart of the Dravari war base. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a weapon. It was a human. Reed. He walked calmly through the main corridor. The lights flickered above him one by one, as if the base was afraid to shine too brightly. Each step he took echoed louder than it should have, as if the steel floor remembered every footfall. Guards followed him, but none walked too close. None spoke. None raised their weapons. In the command tower, Commander Velth stared at the surveillance screen. "He's not breaking doors," Velth muttered. "They're opening for him." Beside him, Drin tapped her control panel again. "No override. Works," she said. "I've tried shutting down all systems. He walks, and the station obeys." Another commander entered the room, Commander Tazek. His face was pale green, his jaw tight. "3 patrol units are down," Tazek growled. "No signs of damage, no gunfire, just fear." "Fear?" Velth asked. "Yes," Tazek said. "The soldiers dropped their weapons. Their minds cracked." Drin turned slowly. "Did you say their minds cracked?" Tazek nodded. "One is laughing non-stop. Another is hiding under a table. The third keeps whispering, 'He knows my name.'" Back in the corridor, Reed paused. He turned and looked up at one of the security cameras. There were no words, but the entire base felt it. A ripple, like a silent quake in the soul. Every screen flickered. Single image appeared, a map, not of the station, but of Earth. It was spinning slowly. Peaceful, a voice, soft, calm, but deeper than thunder, echoed in every hallway. "We were quiet because we were far away, not because we were weak." Commander Velth slammed his fist into the table. "He's playing with us." Drin stared at the map. "No, he's teaching us." In the medical wing, Korlax twitched. He had been unconscious for hours. But now, his eyes opened wide. He sat up straight, like pulled by invisible ropes. The medics rushed to him, but he stood before they reached him. "I saw it," Korlax whispered. One medic asked, "What did you see?" Korlax turned his head slowly. His voice came from far away. A wall of faces, all human. They stood behind him. Then his eyes glowed, just for a second. He collapsed again. Reed reached the inner vault, a room only top commanders could enter. But the door opened without question. Inside, heavy files and data systems floated in zero-gravity light. These were secrets of empires, things stolen from across the galaxy. Reed walked past alien artifacts and ancient tech. He stopped at one object, a small necklace, old, dusty, made of silver and glass. He picked it up gently. The necklace was human. It had a photo inside of a child. Reed stared at it. Behind him, a whisper passed through the air. "Is that yours?" a voice asked. Commander Elzar stepped from the shadows, weapon drawn. "No," Reed replied, "but it belonged to one of ours." "Put it down," Elzar said. Reed didn't move. I said, "Put it down." Elzar fired. The shot hit Reed in the chest. Reed didn't fall. He looked down at the hole in his shirt. His skin wasn't burned. There was no mark. He looked up. "You shouldn't have done that." Elzar's weapon shook in his hands. "Stay back," he shouted. "I'll fire again." Reed took one step forward. Elzar dropped the gun. He screamed, not in pain but in panic. He fell to the floor, gripping his head. "My thoughts. He's inside my mind. Get him out." Reed didn't touch him. He only said one word. "Sleep." And I. Elzar did. Alarms blared. But no one could reach Elzar. Velth saw it all on screen. "That's it," he snapped. "We end this now." He pressed a red button. The emergency lockdown triggered. Gas flooded the halls. Doors sealed. Lights turned red. But Reed didn't stop walking. The gas cleared as he passed through it. The steel walls melted open. The emergency. Lights flickered and died. Velth screamed into the calm. "He's a walking virus." "No," said Drin. "He's a mirror." Velth turned sharply. "What?" "He's showing us what we are," Drin whispered. "And we don't like what we see." Commander Tazek had seen enough. He stormed into the command room with 10 elite soldiers. Let's end this. Old school. They moved toward the lift, heading straight for Reed. In the corridor, the lift doors opened. Tazek stepped out first. He raised his plasma axe. "Human!" he shouted. "You want fear? You'll get it." Reed turned to face them. 10 elite soldiers. Full armor. Plasma loaded. Reed didn't raise his hands. He didn't blink. He only said one thing. "You fear me because you don't understand me." Tazek roared. "Charge!" The soldiers ran. They didn't make it 2 steps. The lights exploded. The walls screamed. And then, silence. All 10 soldiers dropped to their knees, not because they were hit, not because they were hurt, but because their minds broke. Each saw something different. Something personal, something painful. One cried for his mother. One saw his home on fire. One whispered the name of a lost friend. Tazek stood alone. "What are you?" he shouted. Reed stepped forward. "I am not your enemy," he said. "Unless you make me one." Tazek raised his axe, but his hands shook. He screamed and threw the weapon aside. Then he fell. To his knees, back in the command tower, Velth was pale. "We've lost," he whispered. "One man. And he broke us." Drin didn't speak. She walked to the speaker system. And then, she did something no commander had ever done. She sent out a full base transmission. "Stand down, all forces. Do not attack the human. Repeat, do not engage. We surrender." Reed heard it. He stopped walking, the necklace still in his hand. He looked at the camera again. One word appeared on every screen. Smart. Choice. The warbase was silent now. Doors stayed open. Weapons were dropped. The alarms were off. And one man, Reed, stood in the middle of it all. Not a single shot was fired after the broadcast. The galaxy's strongest commanders had surrendered. Not to Earth's army, but to one human. But Reed didn't leave. He stood in front of the main command center, waiting for something more. Inside the tower, Commander Velth's hands shook as he took off his badge and placed it on the table. "We're done," he whispered. Drin stood beside him, staring at the screens. "Are we?" she asked quietly. Velth turned. "You saw what he did. To our systems, to our minds." Drin nodded. "Yes, but he didn't kill us. He could have. And he didn't." Velth frowned. "He walked through our walls," Drin continued. "He faced 10 elite warriors, took a plasma shot to the chest, and he didn't fight back. Not truly." "Then what does he want?" Velth asked. Drin pressed a button. The camera zoomed in on Reed. He was still holding the human necklace, far away in deep space. An Earth ship hovered just outside the Dravari system. It had not moved since this began. Its weapons were offline, its engines cold, but inside, they were watching. High Admiral Grace Hart stood with her hands behind her back, eyes locked on the doll. "Screen. Has he made contact?" she asked. "No, ma'am," replied her comms officer, "but their command center just broadcasted a surrender, base-wide." Grace nodded once. "Open a secure line to the station. One channel, one message." Inside the Dravari command center, a screen flickered. Then a human woman's face appeared. Calm. Cold. Focused. Velth stepped forward. "Who are you?" "High Admiral Grace Hart, Earth Defense Fleet," she replied. "You took one of ours. Now you understand why that was a mistake." Velth swallowed. "He's not normal." "No human is," Grace said. "Not when they're protecting someone they love." Velth blinked. "Love?" Grace's eyes narrowed. "The necklace your forces stole, it belonged to Reed's daughter. She died on one of your mining worlds, crushed under alien boots while unarmed, a child." Drin's face went pale. "We didn't know," she whispered. "You didn't care to ask," Grace answered coldly. "So Reed came to remind you what Earth does when silence is answered with cruelty." Drin looked down. Then slowly she asked, "Why hasn't he left?" Grace nodded slightly. "Because the message isn't done." Velth stepped forward. "Message?" Grace stared into the camera. "Let him speak." Reed stood in the command center's main hall. The necklace around his neck now, Velth and Drin stood a few steps behind him. Cameras from across the base were live, broadcasting to every ship, every world that watched. This wasn't just for the Dravari now. This was for everyone. Reed looked into the camera. He spoke slowly, in simple human words. "You called us weak, slow, primitive. You laughed at our wars, our pain. You stole from us, took our people, killed our children. And when we asked why, you gave no answer, so I came, not to kill you, but to show you what Earth remembers. We are not just strong, we are endless. Our bodies break, but we rise again. Our minds bend, but we do not shatter. We are made of fire, and when you touch our flame, you burn." The silence after his words felt heavier than any sound. For a full minute, no one spoke. Then the entire Dravari system received a final transmission from Earth. One line. "This was mercy. There won't be a second." On a distant world in the Gorthan Empire, commanders gathered in secret. They had watched everything. One turned to the others. "We thought humans were just another species." Another replied, voice tight, "They were, until we gave them a reason to rise." A third whispered, "And now, what are they?" The answer came from a silent corner, a single word, warning. Back on the war base, Commander Velth followed. Reed through the corridor. "No more lies," Velth said. "No more tests." Reed glanced at him. "I didn't come to test your strength," he said. "I came to test your heart." Velth looked down, and for the first time in his life, the commander of the great Dravari fleet felt something strange. Shame. Inside the ship, High Admiral Grace Hart gave the final order. "Prepare warp jump. We're bringing him home." The comms officer looked back. "What about the station?" "Leave it," Grace said. "They've already been marked." Reed stood at the edge of the platform as the Earth ship arrived. It hovered silently above the base. A beam of white light lowered around him. As he rose slowly into the ship, he looked back at the command tower. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He just said, with his voice echoing through every speaker on the base, "Next time, we won't send one." The galaxy was no longer laughing. The footage of Reed had spread faster than light. Billions had watched him walk through a war base without armor, without weapons, and still bring the mighty Dravari Empire to its knees. Many stayed silent. But not all. Some were angry. They believed Earth had crossed a line, that the human display was a threat, that it had to be answered, so the galaxy decided to strike back, not with one ship, not with 10, but with a coalition. In a dark chamber floating above the ringed planet Telvax, 6 leaders from 6 different empires gathered. They were old enemies, but now they shared a common fear, the human and what he represented. Commander Voxar of the Quarn host hissed. One man shook a fleet. "Imagine what an army could do." "Earth must be tested," growled War Priest Zul of the Sangari tribes. "Their mind tricks will not save them from real war." Admiral Thesic of the Zir Alliance tapped his claws together. "We strike, now, before they send more like him." They agreed. A joint fleet, 32 ships, 6 nations, and a mission with one goal: show the humans they are not gods. Back on Earth, inside a quiet bunker beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Admiral Grace Hart stood at a glowing table. Beside her were only 3 people: Reed, Dr. Maya Corrin, a psychic strategist, and General Decker, head of Earth's defense network. They had seen the message. They knew what was coming. Decker slammed his hand down. "Let me fire first. Let's remind them who they're dealing with." "No," Grace said calmly. They're bringing 32 warships, he argued. And we'll answer, she said, but not with war. Reed, quiet all this time, finally spoke. We let them come. Decker stared. Excuse me? We don't stop them, Reed said. We let them see, Doctor. Corin nodded. Fear changes little, but truth, that changes everything. Across the galaxy, the invasion fleet was moving fast. In the lead ship, Voxar stared at the Earth map. They're not defending themselves, he muttered. Thesic narrowed his eyes. It's a trap. Or arrogance, said War Priest Zul. But they all agreed. Too late to turn back now. When the fleet reached the solar system, nothing stopped them. No satellites fired. No human voice spoke. Not even a warning. The fleet moved closer. They passed Mars. Then Earth came into view. Blue. Silent. Still, Commander Voxar gave the order. Begin scan. And then the ships froze. Inside every control room, lights shut off. Screens flickered. Words appeared in a human script. Translated to every language in the fleet. You asked what we are. We are the ones who survived. We are the species that refused extinction. We are the fire that adapts. We are Earth, and you just entered our home. Then the ships began to move. Without the pilot's control, engines shut down. Weapons deactivated, systems rebooted with Earth-coded software. One by one, every ship lost power. In the lead ship, War Priest Zul grabbed his spear and ran to the override panel. We were hacked. Counter it, but no one could. Voxar slammed his fists on the table. What is this? A virus? No, said a voice behind them. They turned. Reed was standing inside the bridge, without a suit. No airlock was opened. No beam had brought him in. He was just there. Calm. Still. Real. Thesic backed away. How did you get in here? Reed walked forward. Slowly. You wanted to understand us, he said. Well, he continued. Start here. We don't always knock. Weapons were drawn. Blades ready. Energy spears lit up, but Reed didn't flinch. He simply said one thing. Ask me what scares us. Voxar laughed nervously. Scares you? You? Reed nodded. Yes. Ask. No one spoke, so Reed said it for them. We don't fear death. We fear becoming like you. Cold, proud, cruel. Zul shouted, We are warriors. Reed's voice hardened. No. You are cowards who need armies to face one man. Outside the ships, something massive moved beneath Earth's oceans. The fleet saw it too late. A dark shape, bigger than any carrier, rose from the sea. It wasn't a ship. It was alive, a machine fused with biology, Earth's last defense. Codename, Leviathan. It didn't attack. It just opened its massive glowing eyes and looked. Suddenly, every alien in the fleet heard the same thing inside their minds. You are children with matches. You stand before a storm and ask if it will blow gently. Earth does not threaten. Earth waits. Inside the lead ship, Reed spoke one last time. Go home. Voxar shouted, We will not bow to a single world. Reed's eyes narrowed. You already have. He pointed to the screens behind him. They were filled with images, alien soldiers from all 6 empires, kneeling, not because they were told, because they understood. One by one, the ships turned, not because they were forced, but because they knew. This was Earth's warning. The next step would be the end. Back in the hidden bunker, Grace received the report. No casualties, no missiles launched. No dead. Decker stared in disbelief. That's not war. No, Grace said. That's what peace looks like, when it chooses not to be war. Reed looked out the glass window. Stars twinkled above, but one glowed brighter. not a star. A ship, the last ship to leave Earth's orbit, and it was broadcasting a message, translated in every galactic tongue. Earth speaks once, only once. They heard the warning, they saw the fleets retreat. But not everyone listened. Some still believed Earth was bluffing. They called the retreat fear. They said the humans used only tricks, not strength. They called Reed a ghost, a myth, a mind game. But myths have power. And Earth didn't need to prove anything again until the Varnock Syndicate made their mistake. The Varnock were not warriors. They were traffickers. They didn't fight battles. They stole, captured, and sold. And they didn't care about warnings. Their scouts had been watching Earth closely. Not for war, but for something they could take. And they saw something, a small Earth vessel, no weapons, no escort, moving through Sector 9. It looked unguarded, so they attacked. 12 Varnock ships surrounded the human vessel. They hailed it once. No response. So they pulled it in. They expected cargo. Maybe tech. Maybe even prisoners. They found something else. Inside the Earth vessel was one person, a human woman. She was sitting in a chair, eyes closed. She didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even look up. Captain Drash of the Varnock fleet stepped forward. "Where is the crew?" he demanded. The woman didn't answer. "She's mute," said one of the soldiers. "No," said Drash. "She's calm." He walked up and grabbed her arm. That's when everything went wrong. A wave of heat passed through the room, not fire, not plasma. It was pressure, invisible, but crushing. One soldier dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, gasping for air. Another screamed and ran. Drash pulled back. What is this?" The woman finally opened her eyes. They were not glowing, not strange, just human. And somehow that was worse. "You should have listened," she said softly. Drash tried to speak, tried to move. He couldn't. His hands were shaking. "What are you?" he whispered. The woman stood. No armor, no implants, no weapons, just cloth and skin. But the metal floor under her feet cracked. She wasn't using strength, she was releasing presence. The Varnock guards tried to shoot. Their weapons failed. Power cells melted. The air turned sharp, suffocating. The woman walked past them as if they were nothing, and one by one, they collapsed. Not dead, just broken. Back on the Varnock command ship, alarm sounded. All 12 ships have gone silent. "Someone's inside them," Captain Vorel shouted. "Send reinforcements." But it was too late. One by one, the stolen Earth vessels lit up again. They weren't dead. They were bait, and now Earth was awake. In the dark sky of Sector 9, a shadow appeared. Not a fleet, not a station, something worse. It was shaped like a tear in space, and from it came only one sound. Boom, boom, boom. Like a slow heartbeat, the Varnock ships turned their weapons toward it, but the shadow kept coming. It wasn't flying. It was falling. The woman inside the original ship watched it approach. She whispered, "He's here." The Varnock control center fell silent. Then, without warning, every screen turned black. A single sentence appeared, translated to every known language. "You broke silence. Now feel what follows." Then he appeared. Reed again. But this time he didn't come alone. His image was not on one ship. It was on all 12, in every hall, every bridge, every mind. The Varnock felt his voice in their heads. Not loud, just true. You laughed at one. You ran from a warning. And now, you'll meet what lies behind our calm. Then the real storm began. The shadow fell onto the lead Varnock vessel, not metal, not fire, but something worse. The Leviathan. But this one wasn't from Earth's oceans. This one was from its skies, built from lightning, shaped like a storm. Alive with anger, it didn't fire, it absorbed. Varnock weapons turned to dust, shields folded like paper, hull cracked, steel screamed, and then only light. After 10 minutes, nothing remained of the Varnock fleet. Not ash, not metal, just silence. In the Earthship, the woman stood once more. Her voice came through all channels. This is your last lesson. We are not peace. We are not war. We are balance. We give mercy once. We give pain forever. In the Galactic Senate, panic rose. Some wanted peace. Some wanted alliance. Some still wanted war. One senator asked, "How many humans are like them?" Another whispered, "What if they all are?" But no one had answers, because Earth wasn't speaking anymore. Back on the Leviathan, Reed stood in silence. He looked out at the stars and said quietly, "We warned them." In deep space, where light took years to travel and silence ruled, fear now floated freely. No empire spoke Earth's name without trembling. The Varnock Syndicate was gone. Not destroyed, erased. And the galaxy had only one question. What is Earth's true weapon? It was not the Leviathan. That beast, living and metal, had crushed fleets. It was not Reed, though he had walked through war like smoke. It was not the human woman who broke soldiers without moving fast. No, Earth's true weapon was still hidden, but that was about to change. On the edge of the Eranth system, a lone science ship picked up something strange, a signal. It pulsed in patterns never seen before, not language, not data, emotion, fear, hope, wrath, peace, all mixed. The signal wasn't calling for help. It was watching. Inside the Galactic Union's command tower, a meeting was held in secret. The top minds, military, science, espionage, all gathered. They had gathered one fact. The humans were not just strong. They were changing. Some said it was tech, others said it was evolution, but one voice said something different. A quiet voice, a captured alien codebreaker, once loyal to the Dravari. He spoke 4 words. They bonded with something else. The Union. Tried to investigate. They sent spies to Earth. Only one returned, barely alive. Eyes wide, mind broken. All he said was, "It saw me." He died seconds later. Not from wounds, from something no scanner could explain. His brain had collapsed. On Earth, deep below the Arctic Circle, was a place even humans barely knew. The Vault. It was older than war, older than electricity, and inside, something moved. Not a creature, not a machine, but both. It looked like a sphere, but no scanner could measure it. No one could touch it. Not even Earth's generals. Only one person could go near it. Reed. He entered alone. The vault sealed behind him. Silence. Then, the sphere pulsed, and for a moment Reed vanished. Not just from sight, from reality. He stepped between time, between thought, and the sphere spoke, but not in words, in understanding. They still don't know. They think you're the weapon, but you are the key. When Reed stepped back out, his eyes were different, not glowing, just clearer, like he had seen everything. And he whispered one word. Soon. Back in space, the remaining powers of the galaxy made one final decision. They would launch a probe, not into Earth, under Earth, to see what was hidden beneath the planet's crust. They disguised the probe. They made it look like a meteor. It fell fast. No alarm was triggered. It passed Earth satellites, passed the clouds, entered the ocean, and then stopped. Something caught it, underwater, deep. The signal was lost, and then returned. But it wasn't data. It was a voice, human, female, soft. You are searching for secrets, but you forgot one thing. The deeper you go, the more likely you find something that looks back. All the scientists panicked. What had caught the probe? Was it the Leviathan? Something worse? Before they could react, Earth sent a message. Not to one empire, to every planet. The message was short, just one sentence. You saw the storm, but you've never seen the sky that made it. Then the vault opened. The sphere lifted from its chamber. It flew towards space. No rockets, just will humans. Watched it rise, calm, silent, hopeful. Reed watched from the highest tower and he said, "Now they'll see it." In orbit, the sphere stopped. It unfolded like a flower made of stars. Each petal was a doorway, each doorway open to other worlds. Not created by humans, but by something older, something ancient. And Earth had bonded with it. Not by war, by choice. The galaxy watched in horror and wonder. This wasn't tech, this wasn't science, it was living memory. The sphere was made from something forgotten, a species that once ruled the stars, extinct, but not gone. Their last gift was this, a seed of power, waiting for a species strong enough to protect it, and that species was human. Suddenly, hundreds of small ships began forming from the petals. No engines, no cockpits, just shape and will. They didn't fly. They flowed, like thoughts. The voice returned. Earth has been chosen, not to conquer, but to guard what comes next. In the Galactic Union, the leaders stared at the footage. One stood up and said, "We can't fight that." Another whispered, "It's not war anymore. It's change." The Varnock were gone. The Dravari were silent. Even the Quorn bowed their heads. Earth had shown its true weapon. Not fire, not ships, not soldiers, but connection. Earth didn't create power. It earned it. Back in the vault, the last screen blinked. Dr. Maya Corrin smiled. "This is what they feared," she said. Reed looked out the window again and replied, "This is only the beginning." The stars were quiet, but not calm. Every empire now feared one world, not because of its ships, not because of its soldiers, because of something much deeper, because Earth had been chosen. And now, they knew the truth. Reed wasn't just a soldier, he was Earth's voice. And Earth had been listening all along. Across the galaxy, leaders met in panic. They didn't know what to do. Fight? Hide? Beg? The doors Earth had opened were still glowing in orbit. Each one pulsed with ancient power. Some called it magic, others called it tech, but deep inside, they all knew this was evolution. Earth had stepped into a future no other race was ready for, and one human stood at the center. Reed walked into the Galactic Senate, not as a conqueror, not as a guest. He walked in alone. No guards, no weapons, just truth. Hundreds of alien leaders watched him from above. Most had mocked him once. Now, none could speak. He stopped at the center platform. He looked up and said just one word. "Speak." Silence. Then, finally, a voice broke through. It was a tall, golden alien, one of the few who had never fought Earth. He asked, "What are you? What has Earth become?" Reed looked at him calmly. "We're still human, but not just human." He pointed up toward the sky. "We found something older than war, older than fear, and it saw something in us, not rage, not conquest, responsibility." Another alien shouted from the shadows. "You threaten the balance," Reed answered without raising his voice. "No. You broke balance when you sold children to the Varnock, when you crushed weak worlds, when you called peace a weakness." His words hit like thunder, but his face stayed calm. Reed took one slow step forward. The floor under him glowed, not from tech, from the bond he now carried. The power of the ancient sphere. The gift Earth had earned, and everyone felt it. A weight in the air, like standing on the edge of a storm. "We didn't come to rule," Reed said. "We came to warn." The golden alien asked, "Warn of what?" Reed looked up at the stars above them, projected on the Senate ceiling, and replied, "Of what's coming." Every screen flickered. Not hacked, just changed. They showed images from beyond the galaxy's edge, shapes, dark, massive. Wrong. The stars bent around them, time itself seemed to warp. They weren't ships, they weren't life forms, they were something else. And they were, moving slow, steady toward this galaxy. Reed's voice cut through the fear. This is what the ancients ran from. This is why they left the sphere. They weren't defeated. They were trying to give the next Guardians a chance. The chamber fell into chaos. Some screamed. Some ran. Some begged Reed to stop them, but he raised his hand and the entire hall froze, not by force, by presence, a calm pressure that held panic down. "You all feared us," Reed said, "but you never asked why we were chosen." He took another step. "It wasn't because we're strong. It's because we get back up every time, no matter what hits us." He paused. "We're not your enemy. We're your last shield." The golden alien fell to one knee, not out of fear, but respect. One by one, others followed. Old enemies, former mockers, all silent now, all staring at one human. Back on Earth, the sphere hovered in the skies, its petals fully open. The Leviathan circled, it like a guardian beast, and through every screen, Earth spoke. Unity is not weakness, kindness is not cowardice, and laughter should never be used to hide fear. Reed stood alone in the chamber as the stars above began to shift. They were coming, the ancient darkness, but this time, Earth would not run, it would lead, and the galaxy, broken, scared, and once arrogant, would stand behind one world. In the final moment of the broadcast, Reed looked into the lens and said to the whole galaxy, "You laughed at one of us. You begged one of us. Now, fight beside us, or watch everything fall." The lights faded, the camera cut, the silence returned. But the galaxy would never be the same again, because now it had seen what Earth truly was. Not a threat, not a joke, not a myth, but the last hope. Series complete. Let me know if you'd like. A new title, Charn Story series, next full YouTube thumbnail, plus title, plus voiceover suggestions, shorts, recap scripts, Urdu version for voiceover, or help launching the video on your HFY channel. I'm ready when you are.